Welcome to the McTaggart Attack Podcast. I'm Kevin McTaggart. Thank you so much for watching or listening to the podcast today, however you're doing it, if it's on YouTube or wherever you're listening to podcasts. I wanted to talk today about mindfulness, but not just mindfulness in general. Mindfulness when it comes to something that I dread, and I think a lot of people dread and don't like, is the winter or winter storms, because what's one thing I definitely don't look forward to is the winter, and when a snowstorm is coming, particularly a snowstorm that brings like a lot of snow. Hate it. Hate it, hate it, hate it. I moved back up here to Vermont in 2004 because I sucked at paying off my credit cards and I couldn't afford rent anymore, so I moved back in with my parents. And yes, I'm still here. Yes, I understand it's 2020, but whatever. Incidentally, before I go on, please if you want to find me on Venmo at McTaggart Attack and contribute to the Get Kevin the Fuck Out of His Parents' House Fund, I will gladly accept any donations. I'm this close to starting a GoFundMe for that exact purpose, even though I have a full-time job that barely pays the bills. Hopefully someday someone will watch me on this podcast and think, hey, I want to pay him to do podcasting for a living. So maybe that'll happen. Anyway, where was I? Winter storms. Hate them. Ever since I moved back up here. Like, I loved snow days as a kid when I lived in New England. Because snow days, you didn't have to go to school. You just play in the snow all damn day. Snow days are awesome. If you've never experienced a snow day as a child, you're completely missing out. Seriously. I feel sorry for you. Unless you've turned into a Trump supporter, then... Alright, no, I still feel sorry for you then, but this isn't a political video, or a political episode of the McTaggart Attack Podcast. I want to talk about how I've dealt with winter storms in recent years. I used to hate winter storms. I used to hate snow. I used to hate driving in the snow. I still hate driving in the snow. It's still... Before I get onto that, here's something that maybe people who aren't in New England or where it's cold weather is. First of all, I hate you. Second of all, not really. But third of all, yes, I really do hate you. But fourth, it seems that, every year, people forget in New England how to drive in the snow. Because there's usually, a lot of accidents in, the beginning of the season. And I'm just are you that mesmerized by the spring and the summer that, you totally forget how to drive in the snow when it's wintry conditions or icy conditions? Drive slow if that happens. Honestly. Use your fucking head. Please. For the sake of yourself and others. But no, I've usually hate the snow. I've always hated the snow. It's always been a pain in the ass for me. I've always dreaded it. I've always dreaded driving in the snow. It used to make me so nervous to my core, driving in the snow. Or not even driving in the snow, worrying about driving in the snow. I haven't even driven in the snow yet. I'm still worrying about it. Made me so nervous. It probably still does, but it. And I'd always dread when a snowstorm was coming. There's nothing worse when like you're having a good day in winter and the weather's beautiful, and then you hear a coworker or someone else go, "Oh, but it's gonna snow tomorrow." Like, can't we just enjoy today? Seriously, can't we just enjoy today? Can't, apparently, because people have to keep on bringing up bad shit like snowstorms or freezing rain or shit like that. But I feel like in recent years, my mindset towards winter storms has improved tremendously. I've delved a lot into meditation and mindfulness since about 2014, 2015. And that's helped me a lot overall. Like, I'm a much happier person having embraced mindfulness and meditation over the past 5 or 6 years. And it's great. It's helped me worry a lot less. And what was one thing that I worried a lot about up here in New England was snowstorms. Mindfulness has helped me tremendously with snowstorms. Meditation and mindfulness has helped me tremendously with snowstorms. I don't worry about them as much as I used to. I mean, I'm still aware of them. I still don't like them, but it doesn't like occupy all of my thoughts. Because that's something that you should consider. You shouldn't let bad stuff like that or dreadful stuff like snowstorms, winter storms, just occupy your thoughts. I mean, I know it does for me. I know it did for me, but like I try not to let one thing ruin everything else. You should never let one thing ruin everything else. That's what I try to do. I've slowly and surely gotten better at not letting one thing ruin everything else. Doesn't always work, especially when I'm driving through a snowstorm. Sometimes I still get nervous driving through a snowstorm, but I try to drive slow and I try to pay attention, and I just worry more about other people that are on the highway with me. I'll never forget when I went to do my first stand-up comedy class, take my first stand-up comedy class up in Burlington, Vermont, which was an hour and a half away from me. And that night of the first class, there was like a snowstorm. And like the road was, the highway, I-89 was full of snow. And I turned an hour and a half drive into a 3-hour drive. And trucks were speeding past me down the highway, and I'm just like, what? But like, no, it was nerve-wracking, and winter storms has always made me nerve-wracked. And up until recently, though, like, thanks to meditation and mindfulness and like mental noting, it's really helped me with winter storms, because like it's helped me worry less overall as a human being. But it's one aspect of that it's really helped with is my attitude towards snowy weather. So if you're someone who worries about a lot of stuff, specifically winter storms or anything for that matter, I highly encourage you to take up meditation and mindfulness. The book I started on was 10% Happier, a book by Dan Harris. There's an app, the 10% Happier app, which has helped me a lot over the past year or so. And I highly recommend that. Meditation and mindfulness has helped me in so many ways. Especially this year, when I've finally started doing it more. But, yeah, it's definitely helped me in the past couple years not worry about winter storms so much. Because what the hell can you do? You can't, like, make them go away. They're going to happen. And you just have to be aware that they're going to happen, and then just be like, okay, it's going to happen. It's going to suck. Embrace that and move on. Just be aware that it's going to happen. It's going to happen. If you live in New England, it's going to snow multiple times a week sometimes. And sometimes, like today, we got about 20 inches at the house, I would have to think. They said we were only going to get like 6 to 8. Then we wake up and there's like 10, and then it just kept snowing. It had to have gotten up to over 20 inches. But it was crazy. But like, it didn't really bother me today. I refused to let it bother me. I mean, I acknowledged it, that it was snowing. You know, I was aware of it. I think working from home certainly helped with the snowstorm today, because that's what bothers me the most, is driving in it. But like, even then, you just have to like, I just try to be mindful. Like, one thing I do for mindfulness, one thing that I read was a good tip. It's like, if you're driving, feel your hands touching, grasping the steering wheel. Because if you feel your hands grasping the steering wheel, then you're focused on what you're touching, the steering wheel. And you're not thinking about anything else, because you're thinking about grasping the steering wheel. And that's mindfulness, really. Like, I'm sitting in the chair right now, and I'm feeling myself sitting in the chair. And that's mindfulness. And meditation is really just breathe in. I like to do it through the nose. And then breathe out. And then just do that over and over again. And if you start thinking about stuff, just start the whole breathing thing all over again. That's a brief, shitty lesson about meditation and mindfulness, but I highly encourage you to look into it, because it's helped me, and I know that it can help you. And that's the bottom line. If you smell what the McTaggart Attack Podcast is cooking.